So how are you today? I hope you're doing very well. Glad to be back here with you again. So there are lots of things to talk about. Wow. I don't know if you know, but well, we've got some very, very exciting things coming up after a couple of notices about TKM. And if because I'm leaning on TKM study side. And even if you're a long time TKM person, certified teaching, contracted teaching, or you're an advanced student, I have some things that you might not have heard before. So it's time to dig out the notes like I was talking about. But first, let's touch on the things that people are dealing with. So uncertain times, you hear that? Uncertain times? Well, it is uncertain times. But all times are uncertain times, right? I mean, I'm in a field to where I run across people's uncertain times all the time. They're living their life one day and the next day, heart attack, stroke, cancer diagnosis, all types of things that happen. You get fired from your job, your career that you may have worked an entire career, your life and dedicated for, and all of a sudden, boom, you walk in and you're gone. It happens. It happens all the time. I mean, some of these things like cancer and cardiovascular disease, heart attack, the statistics are 1 out of every 2 people is going to be dealing with these at one time in their life. So there's something that I saw that I thought about this before, but there was a man that lost his job. Now, a little bit about this man is he had a tough upbringing. So I knew something about this. I found some background. And ended up in prison, got out of prison, trying to get his life right. He does. He meets a woman he loves. They get married. He's got a job. He's doing what he needs to do. And then one day in this situation that's called uncertain circumstances, is that he walked into his job and he didn't get a notice. He lost his job that day. Go home. He didn't get a check later on. He didn't get severance pay. He lost his job. He goes home to his wife. He's got a toddler. And he couldn't find any work. I mean, who can find a job in a situation like this? There were certain things out there for some people in certain areas. His wife happened to be pregnant, about 7 months pregnant, and had a toddler. Well, they couldn't pay the rent, and it got worse, and they got evicted. Now, there's a lot of people that are understanding how things are going, and there's a lot of people that are not, and they're having tough times, and they're passing it on to other people. So they lived and slept in his car. Can you imagine that? Him, his wife, 7 months pregnant, and a toddler in a car? It was horrible. There are people getting $1,000 fines out there. You hear that all over the place. There are dads and moms getting arrested for being with their children in a park with no one else there. They're with the people that they're supposed to be quarantined with, but they're out and they're getting arrested in front of their kids. I was just going to stay calm in this, so I'll try to calm myself. Right? So bear with me for a minute. One man actually was shot by 2 police officers, unarmed, did not have the virus, because he was violating a temporary regulation that he can't transfer, if I got this, from one subway car to another. This is in New York City, in a station. The thing is, they had all this on the security cameras, and of course, they relieved the 2 officers of their job, pending investigation, blah, 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 but it was all on camera. So it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's super crazy what's going on there. And it really makes no logical or historical sense and has never existed before anywhere except maybe Hitler's socialist agenda, where you have a police state that's doing all kinds of things. I'm not saying that's exactly what we're having here, but you know, we've lost our rights. We've lost things that make sense, don't make sense. And it's a very difficult time. And when I'm talking about the virus, I'm talking about the other things that are going on. Tens of millions are being hurt in just this country alone. Many more are affected. Everybody's affected. Now, there are some people that are not getting this to the same as others. I'll name that. Hundreds of millions of people in the world, if not a couple of billion. Suicide rate is way up. There was a doctor heard about recently, a young doctor, and she was a doctor in New York City, the worst place in this country to be a doctor or to be sick with this virus that's going around. So she's working with what? What they keep saying. Elderly people with numerous pre-existing conditions, very poor health. They get the virus, they got them in the hospital, they're not doing anything to treat a virus, and the people are dying left and right. It just overwhelmed her. She went home and committed suicide. Now, she didn't have the virus. It's due to the stuff that's going on. Everyone is being censored. So many things in television and news and the Yahoo, exactly, Google, and the YouTube. So more and more, I've heard of a lot lately. The medical state boards are very tightly regulating what doctors now can do and say in every way. Let's see, I went off air. I don't know if you got to complete the lecture last Friday, but I was barred after that. Couldn't go back to the class that had been the fourth day in 3 days. So it took about an hour and a half to get up on another service and get that going. I saw a friend of mine Saturday, this past Saturday, chiropractor said they just got notice from the state board. Who? All the chiropractors, according to what he said, contacted them and restricted them from saying anything that could relate to stimulating, helping, boosting the immune system. Can't say that anymore. Can't say that anymore. So fear, which is a form of terrorism, phobias, goodness, it's going crazy. Why is this happening like this? These are things not related to the virus. You understand? This has nothing to do with the virus. What you can't say, what you can't do, what all these freedoms that we've always had that are not there. Stress resulting in stressing relationships at home, marriages, children. Impatient attitudes resulting in rudeness to others. We have experienced some severe phobia actions here, actually, from clients. People that are, we're basically have been shut down partially to be partial obedient to what the laws and regulations that are temporary. They're not really laws. They're regulations. They're ordinances that are temporary for a situation that are actually violating our constitutional rights. But we have been taking orders for refilling products for people. We have one client, matter of fact, had a client this morning. It's the only client we've got booked this week. By the way, we're open. We're open again. And some sharp rudeness from clients as we're here to help them and do what we can. We understand, but you know, we need to get a grip. Go walk, go breathe, smile. The rudeness of what people are doing is not right. More and more sources are censoring quickly and radically. I have people emailing me videos from doctors, hospital scientists, researchers that too often as we see it, it comes in, we see it, say with, read this, check up on this news, we click it, and as soon as you do that, boom, it's already removed. So they must have already got some, what do they call it? The rhythms, algorithms, it's not algorithms, excuse me. Last Friday, after the lecture, I clicked to go back to the class and it was blocked. I mentioned that. So we ended up just doing Zoom and got everybody back on there. So we were connected with everybody and did finish the class. It was late, but it worked. But at the same time all this stuff is going on, I do see increasingly people in the neighborhood more friendly than ever. People you see as neighbors that kind of stay to themselves, and also people I haven't seen. Strangers in the neighborhood. These are people on the street being friendly as you pass by, even in cars, driving, waving, smiling. That's awesome. Strangers, I love it. The more places you go. People helping people, going out of their way, they're encouraging people. I was on one corner that I stopped, and there must have been divided up from between the four corners, about 12 people, look like families, children, adults, just holding signs saying, hang in there, we love you, this is passing, all just different things to encourage you. Going out of their way, people are going out of their way to be good Samaritans right now. I've heard of so many stories. Signs on cars and trucks and flags, you're seeing a lot more flags now that are sharing love and encouragement. Some of them I see that they're taking, I don't know, it looks like white shoe polish, but something and marking on their windows, just encouraging things. I love that. It's great. So it's what you choose. Remember the one that we talked about for attitudes? It's what you choose to do with a situation, and what you choose to look at. Phobias are way out of place. Do not let this do its job on you. And again, I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about the taking away of rights, the imprisonment in your emotions, in your mind, aside from your physical body. And it is causing us stress because we've bought into it. So I want to give you some things about TKM. And let's keep this up. Let's not succumb to what other people are succumbing to. Let's make the difference. The curve has changed already, but I still see things tightening up because that's the real agenda behind things. And there are certain people that are going with it and certain people that are not. I'm like the not. I am not for flagrantly doing anything against the law or regulations, but there are a lot of things you can do to keep yourself up, help others, encourage them, and not cow down and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or any way to the things that are happening. Because there's one fact that always remains in so-called uncertain times, which I already said. They're every day for everybody. We just get into our routine. You know, we're going to our same job every day, whatever our routine is every day, whether you're a housewife or a child going to school or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden things change. Whoa, uncertain times. Well, I've already mentioned, there are uncertain times all the time for everybody. We just think automatically that things are always going to be the same. So really, this is another good example of how, no, you don't know what the end of the day is. No, you don't know what tomorrow's like, but I do know who has the end of all things in his hands. And he's steadfast. And there's nothing about any of this he doesn't know. And if you rely on him, he always is with you to bring you through it. I also mentioned that for a long time after this, I'm going to be working and talking to people about educating of what I've been doing for several decades, that we need to be better stewards of our health. Because if we were, this would have had zero effect. There's a lot of people, whatever lot is, you know, thousands, tens of thousands or more, that would have gotten a virus to some level, may have been shortly impaired, may not have missed any work, maybe one day, and would have run its course and you go right on. What's happening is when you're not in your health prepared for what comes around several times a year. This happens to be a new one. Not really. No, it's a type of SARS. There's been SARS. Coronavirus has been patented as a virus since 2011. On and on. Coronavirus for pets and animals have been around for a long time. We have had in our testing 6 different strains of coronavirus for many, many years. It's not new. It's what they're doing with this new particular one now. So, TKM. Rule of thumb. You want some rule of thumbs that's really awesome? You see some stuff on the board. I'm going to be talking about that. You want to take notes? You can go ahead and start taking notes there while you're listening. So, here is the rule of thumb. You've heard me talk about this in a lot of different ways. Some are a little ambiguous. I'm going to give you some rules of thumb. You've heard me talk about some of the other things that I'm going to be talking about in other aspects. Now I'm going to give you another one. So whether you're fresh or you've been around this for a long time, you're going to get some new news. So it usually takes about 2 years, possibly 3, with determining factors, from disrupted energy before physical reaction. So what do you mean? Well, you got scar tissue, you got an injury, whatever happens, serious mental attitude, serious emotional. So the average is for that to do its domino effect, affect your 144,000 biochemical reactions to the degree to escalate up to where you get physical symptoms. Now let me give you another one. What are you talking about? Energy and you have, well, what about cancer? How many people know the day that they have a tumor form? Do they know the week after, the month after, the quarter of a year after, as it's in you growing and growing, sometimes unencapsulating and spreading? That is a symptom that there is available, and it's growing, many times unknown to people, most all the time unknown, until what? Until it develops enough to where you have pain, symptoms, disablement, or you go get a checkup somewhere and they say, oops, we found something. You thought you were doing great, but this is here. It's been here. You get to find out today. So just on the energy side, when you have an energy disrupt, it takes an average of 2 to 3 years. And I have that in my own particular history as well, and what I see with so many people, of that disruption before you get physical reaction. Like breast lumps. Take breast lump, for example. It takes 2 to 3 years from that disruption for that to happen. And if we have time, I'm going to get into some other notes because I'm digging in to notes that I haven't looked at in a long time. Do study, do research, logging all these things, stowing them away. In between, I've written the books, we've done the videos, the DVDs, all kinds of things. But there's been a practice. I have a little more time now. The practice is sitting there getting cobwebs. So I've talked a lot about regenerative energy and generative energy. So I'm going to give you some other aspects. There's always two. There's either generative energy or regenerative energy. Now, for regenerative, let's talk about this one. On the other side of the red line. Now, ascending energy. All ascending energy relates to regenerative energy. All descending energy relates to generative energy. You're generating. Same correlations if you're cleaning your building. And I'm going to talk more about that. So that's important, that all ascending energy up the back is regenerative. Also, it relates to right hand and body. So right hand and body, this guy is regenerative. So let's say regenerative. And over here is generative. Mind if I shorten that a little bit? The left side is the descending, and that's, I'm going to touch back on that in a moment. And things like alternate energy spheres. I've got a nugget there for you. But just to let you know, everything left side, all of this is generative energy. Another aspect you've heard me talk about before, and we just did that again in the class this week, is if you have a left shoulder project, always think fifth stratum. If you have a right shoulder project, always think third stratum. Look at those correlations. Now that, you wonder, well, what is that related to? That's related to what I'm about to tell you. There is a different way of looking at the stratums. If you'll notice, that you have 3 here and 3 here, they're not the 3 that you turn up and look at it for pulses or the other correlations. This is another correlation. So for left side, that means left hand, foot, left body. So anything on the left side has a second and fifth stratum and sixth stratum correlation and a generative correlation. So that's why you have fifth dealing with the left shoulder. Now when it comes to the right side, hand, arm, side of the body, this includes the torso and the leg or foot, that relates to first stratum, third stratum, and fourth stratum. That's why you see third stratum relating to that shoulder. See? Let me get another color here. Brighten this up a little bit. And again, regenerative energy, right side, left side here. And I just wanted to give you that little reminder, 2 to 3 years before manifestation. And all of these correlations with that. So, ready for another nugget? This is things like alternate energy spheres. What do you mean? Well, we've got our 0 through 26, meaning 1 through 26. And then we have things like high 19, high 1, low 8, middle 6, forward 6, deep 6. Well, you know, here's a deeper understanding. They're actually like facilitators versus energy spheres. They coordinate more with organ energy, with pathways. You know, the energy spheres are about communication, like resonance, like you tuning fork. Well, I wouldn't want to pick a pink one, would I? If that's going to be blue and the same one, we want to match it, right? So it's got a certain frequency, it resonates. That's what we're dealing with the frequencies of the body in these energy sphere locations. Now you have an aspect of that, that's why they're termed like they are, like high 19, high 1, low 8, because they have an aspect of the relation of that energy sphere because of the area. But they're locations on pathways. Locations on pathways. I want to speak a little bit more about that. They coordinate with organ energy and pathways. So that's what you use to help more of the circulation side. And you have something like in the self-help book, the most repeated one that you find is high 19 and opposite high 1. That works mediator and it works pathways primarily. Profound. Want another one? I got nuggets, they're coming, okay? With the exception of critical and urgent needs, applying TKM on someone for extended periods is not recommended. Why? Well, the main thing that I usually explain is a matter of communication. You know, it works for 8 hours and then it has to assimilate and get everything on track with the new circulation, or you might say the new program of functioning of the energy level that the body has to catch up to that same level. All of that is there. There's another reason. It's related to too many toxins being released. So don't get into fear or phobias and terrorize yourself. Understand that when you're doing TKM, any TKM, and you're getting it to circulate better, the energy in your body, then you have a direct biochemical reaction, and that biochemical reaction is one of the number one things that impairs us, which is toxins. So all the different ways that our body is impaired by toxins, to release those and let them process out of your body. So for critical situations, the critical part overrides this. For urgent situations, it overrides it as well. So there are things that can override, something you need to get accomplished now. But just in general, like normal sessions, or, hey, I've got some time, why don't I work on you for 3 or 5 hours? So I've always told you that the general time is approximately an hour. And the reason is, unless you're very hydrated and you're in excellent condition, and you're going to keep it that way, the chances, if you're very toxic like the average person is, it's going to release too many toxins. So there's your other understanding for timing. Different from pulses, another nugget. Different from pulses and other relations, there are stratum relations to the right side and the left side, and this is talking about right here. It's like the right shoulder is always referring to third stratum, and the left shoulder is always referring to fifth stratum. So I have the illustration that I put up there ahead of time, so you'd have those correlations. Now, sixth stratum and third stratum are supply. You know that sixth stratum is supply for all of the other 5 stratums and 144,000 functions. Now, as a stratum correlation that relates to organs, and part of that 144,000, because sixth doesn't relate to the 144,000. There's third. It balances and helps all other organ energy. So sixth and third, as they are also suppliers of energy, because third is the bridge from sixth. And specifically, out of sixth stratum, you have diaphragm and umbilicus, and in third, you have liver and gallbladder. So it's the umbilicus of sixth into the gallbladder of third, that's that bridge. And that is the supply for all of the other 144,000 functions divided up unevenly with 5 stratums or categories. So they're also to balance. A connection to understand. Like arthritis. Let's take a symptom. Arthritis, very common, all types of arthritis. And what is that? It's a bone issue, right? So it's bone, and that's effects, that's symptoms. It's listed as fifth stratum. Even in the TKM books, you'll find arthritis on pages related to fifth stratum. Small intestine, heart, those are all fifth stratum correlations along with the energy spheres. But it is from third stratum. You have a third stratum issue like anger, frustration, all the branches of that, and that is known to freeze joints. Even short-term anger can affect your muscles and freeze joints, but then it will loosen up after that. If you have this going on chronically to a large degree or even a lower degree, it can eventually intermingle with fifth stratum, and what do you get? Fifth stratum effects affecting bone. You get calcification, it messes up your joints, and you go to the doctor and he looks at the signs and symptoms and he gives you the label. So you can work on fifth stratum just like it is in the book for the signs and symptoms, but you work on third stratum for cause of all the types of arthritis and bone projects that would relate to that label. I've got another one for you. The energy sphere level, remember we talked about sections of the book, whether you're talking about levels 1 through 7 or 8, and level 1 and 2 book. So in that, we have 2 sections. No matter which book, which information, which sequences you're talking about, only 2 levels that we're talking about: cleaning and building. So energy sphere level is cleaning level versus the building. And that level, the energy sphere level, the cleaning level, is the thought level. So another way you could look at that is it cleans up your thoughts or stinking thinking. Remember, it's the thoughts that then you have emotional reactions, then you have a physiological reaction, then you can have that acutely or you can have it chronically that ends up with labels and diseases and premature death. That's not good. So, looks like we're about out of time. We've got so much more to share. I'm going to prepare some good nuggets for next time, and I'm still looking for your comments and questions and suggestions. I'd like those to give me some direction, because just like what I did today, there's a lot of things I've been working on. There's some projects, not time to share that right now, but I just put this together just shortly before the lecture today. So your comments would help. If you're fine with everything, that's good. If you'd like a little more over here, a little less over there, I'd love your feedback. So have fun, and you be the encourager. No phobias, no fears, no negative attitudes affecting your health and having that affect people around you. You choose. Choose your attitude. Choose to make a difference. Choose to be the encourager. Waving and smiling at strangers. Saying hello, even if it's across the street or down the street. If it's a stranger, even if they don't respond to you, don't let that affect you in a negative way. You stay positive and be an influencer. People need it. So in between, God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.